The Silver Tide, Chapter 1. In the core of a planet in the midst of Dalek space was a chamber. The chamber was large and monotonous in hue, a non-reflective silver. It gave the room an eerie, unearthly quality. In the center of the room, a chair revolved. The occupant of the seat was not human, although once it had been something very similar to it, but that was a very, very long time ago. Now, the large silver figure, with black adornments on its body, including the handle-like apparatus on its head, analyzed its surroundings. Not the silver walls around it, but the stars beyond. The Cyber Observatory was once the seed from whence all cyber life had sprung. It was from here that they had planned their survival, developed the survival suits to outlive the frail, dying flesh within. No operation was carried out without careful planning from this place, and their adversaries had no idea it even existed. Holograms of a star system flickered with a bluish light around the cyber leader. Its chair revolving instinctively, synchronized to the leader's thought patterns. The leader considered. Dalek space. When the cyber race had been at its strongest, the two dominant factions of the present were barely more than mewling children. The humans of Eden had not been a factor, concentrating on fixing their own problems, such as environmental catastrophes and warring amongst themselves. The Daleks had barely even begun. The war with the Thals had barely concluded, and the scientist that called himself their creator, Davros, had barely left his bunker and salvaged what mutated inhabitants remained. But the Cybermen had waged war amongst the other inhabitants of the universe, many of whom were extinct today. Either because they had been cyber-converted, cleansed of emotion and instilled in a survival suit with bodily organs and limbs gradually replaced with superior technological analogues, or they had refused the Cybermen's offer of improvement and enlightenment. This small-minded response was based off of fear, that most negative of emotions. There was barely an ill deed committed in the galaxy that wasn't founded by fear, and the Cybermen were proud to have rid themselves of it. But the universe had resisted, it had banded together, and despite every effort, the Cybermen were defeated. Their numbers dwindled, their resources depleted. Cyber Control had considered its potential choices. Either fight on and give way to inevitable extinction, or survive. The latter, of course, was the only logical option. The Cybermen must survive, so they had retreated into hibernation units, secreted underground on many worlds scattered around the universe. The Cybermen slept as the universe forgot them, and in their absence, races changed and evolved. The Eden Alliance had become a formidable space power, and the Daleks had become the most feared empire in the known universe. The Cyber Leader had awoken from its sleep a mere few months ago. In Dalek space, on the planet Chaldees, slaves had accidentally tripped the Cybertomb's security sensors. This had triggered the Cybermen's revival there. As soon as cyber units were active, they had requested orders, which had activated the leader in turn. Whilst the Cybermen's organic components had been suspended, their logical computer minds had been awake and alert, performing complex calculations. The required outcome? To restore the Cybermen as a dominant universal power and avoid the defeats of the past. A new paradigm was now prepared and ready to be implemented. The cyber units on Chaldees were soon under attack from the Daleks there. Dalek weaponry was strong, and half a dozen Cybermen had been destroyed, leaving only 3 survivors. The leader had ordered an immediate retreat. They were not yet ready to implement their strategies, so the Cybermen had scattered and fled, each in a different direction. This was not out of fear. Cybermen did not fear. This was logical. But now, the Daleks were alerted to their presence and would study the Cybermen's remains. The leader looked at the dark brown world of Chaldees. It had little strategic value, but the situation had been unavoidable. Now the Cybermen were awake. Their second campaign would begin. The leader opened a channel to the Cybermen there and spoke in its deep, resonant voice.
"Commence the operation."
A Dalek spacecraft made its landing on the dreary-looking world of Chaldees. The ship was the traditional saucer shape, and its stark white hull contrasted with the muddy environment around it. Inside the ship, the newly promoted General Law sat. Dalek ships didn't tend to have seats, so she had planted herself onto a conveniently placed storage crate. She could hear the rain that this world was famous for, pounding against the metal of the ship. The Dalek pilot called out,
"We have landed on the planet Chaldees."
Law stood up immediately. Her eyes were severe and hid her nervousness. She had not been ready for the promotion, and it had taken her by surprise. She had convinced herself that she would throw herself into her new role as general of the 9th Conquest Army with as much determination as she could muster. The Emperor's faith in her would be rewarded. She wore her favoured leggings and sleeveless top. They didn't appear very combat-worthy, but the fibres the clothes were made out of were infused with Dalekanium. This meant they were lightweight, but highly durable. She had chest armour and thigh guards over the top for further reinforcement. She flexed her pale, muscular arms. Sitting still had made them stiff, her heeled boots clacking on the metal floor as she made to exit the ship. As she walked, her dark green hair, tied back in an efficient ponytail, swayed from side to side. She put on a dark robe and placed the hood over her head. The landing ramp had already been deployed, and she exited the ship. The rain came down on her, but her robe protected her from it. In front of her was a small force of Daleks. They stood in formation, an impressive sight despite their number. Their casings were a bright white, with black skirt sections. The embedded hemispheres were the same white, contrasting sharply. Their smart colours clashed with the environment, thought Law. She saw a black-domed Dalek approach her.
General Law, welcome to Chaldees,
said the Dalek in a curt tone. Sub-Commander Xeon, I presume, she replied. She looked up at him, squinting as the rain splashed her face. Xeon's eye stalk analysed her. He had known of her, of course. The hybrids had been making waves in the Empire of late. While many considered their aid to be an insult, Xeon was grateful to receive aid from someone with as good a reputation as hers.
Yes, General. I apologize for the inhospitable landing zone. I forget that humanoid species are less inclined towards atmospheric precipitations,
he said idly. The rain's fine, she said shortly. I brought your reinforcements, 800 Dalek mutants. That should be enough to stomp some Cybermen.
I do not like the name Cyber Stompers. It seems unfitting. We fought only one squad, but they did not come out into the open. They stalked and used their intelligence to outwit us. They used infiltrating subspecies, insectoid in appearance, and they ate through many of our systems, and many Daleks who were charging were drowned in their own life support units. A Cyberman also injected a poisonous substance into our chloroplamin stocks, and Daleks suffered and died within a day from ingesting the toxin. When we had last found the Cybermen, we confronted them head-on. We had already suffered heavy losses, and we had to combine fire to stand a chance of killing just one Cyberman. They are very fast and very strong. Some of the surviving Daleks have suffered side effects,
Xeon said, his eye stalk looking to his comrades. What do you mean, side effects? Law inquired gently. She looked to the Daleks behind Xeon. At first glance they had seemed fine, but on closer inspection she could see that some of them were behaving oddly. One's eye stalk had drooped down, and it looked like it had gone into dormancy. Another one's eye stalk was continuously looking up and down, up and down, up and down, and another was hovering further off the ground than the others for no reason that she could see.
I believe humans would call it post-traumatic stress disorder, uncommon in Daleks. Such is the formidable threat that is the Cybermen,
Xeon said, turning his eye stalk back to her.
I need to show you some things in order to bring you up to speed. We should go to our research center.
Very well. Have the newly arrived Daleks installed in their travel machines, Law ordered. Xeon turned to a nearby Dalek.
You heard the General, Stork,
he said.
I obey, Sub-Commander,
Stork said. He turned to Law.
General,
he said curtly, and glided away. Law and Xeon went in the opposite direction. What do you want to show me, Xeon? Law inquired.
I want to show you just what we are up against,
he replied enigmatically.